The second most lethal affecting the human civilization was Spanish flu. Now remember, it was a Spanish flu not because it started in Spain. It actually started in United States of America, but because Spain was, not involved directly in the First World War at that time, and therefore most of the newspaper and the print, the media was able to report about the flu, and therefore it became Spanish flu. Of course, the spread was through the returning army, and it was worldwide, but the period was just 1 year. And then it accounted for about 17 to 100 millions of people. So a huge loss of population, which was felt even in India. It had its impact by the returning soldiers in UP, in parts of Punjab. From wherever the warriors went, we find that this flu was rampant during that period. And it accounted for about 1 to 5.4% of the global population at that time. Now, besides that, there have been plague. Plague has been a rampant thing occurring again and again. Just as we find that variant of COVID is recurring, similarly, plague, if you go through the entire data or the information which is available on this, you will find that it is cropping up again and again in different parts. So definitely there were carriers. So the trade was the carrier, or the war was the carrier. There were different phenomena and processes by which the spread was taking place, though during that time the world was not connected as much as it was even in 19th or 20th century. We cannot think about 21st century connectivity. Now, similarly, another very lethal and very, you can say, the one which has affected many countries is HIV and AIDS. And this has been again worldwide. It has affected 36.3 millions of people. It is as of in 2020. Now, besides that, I'm coming to COVID-19 pandemic, which is present ongoing pandemic. It is worldwide, and more or less it has accounted for around 5 million and 19 lakhs. 5.19 millions of deaths, and which is accounting for. Now you can understand that this proportion is relatively less in comparison to the earlier, because the world was relatively smaller. Now here lies another aspect of the paradox, that despite all the development in medical science, despite our laboratories, despite our pharmaceutical industries, we find that the world could be knocked down by a pandemic like COVID-19, and there have been quite a huge number of deaths as well. But considering the other types of diseases or pandemics, the way they have spread and affected, this has still not, one can say, in that way, if we can dare to say in that way. Now, I will draw your attention to some of these which have taken place, which have occurred in 16th century and later on also, and especially in Latin American countries. And Latin America during that time, it was the process of colonization, wherein the Europeans went to these parts. See, 1520 Mexico, smallpox. Then again, this Cocolitzil, which was worldwide in 1968 and 69. But during this period, the Europeans who migrated to these regions, which were unknown for a long time, these were not known earlier, and they took with them the diseases, several diseases themselves, and therefore the entire population, see, 23 to 37% of the regional population of Mexico, this faced death. So here also we find 50% of the Mexican population in 1576 faced death. Now this is wrong. This is 1568 to 69. This is not correct. Anyway, so that I wanted to mention, and here therefore we talk about that these have been the most lethal, Black Death, then of course the later variants of plague, HIV, AIDS, and ongoing COVID-19. Now, geography of pandemics, their diffusion is intricately associated with the ecological conditions of the world at that time. It is affected with the prevailing modes of production, that whether it is agrarian mode, whether it is industries, whether it is post-industrial structures, that is service sector becoming important, IT sector becoming important, also the geopolitics, whether in US and China are having confrontation with each other, or what is the expansionist, you can say, politics of United States of America, or for that matter China. This is the geopolitics and the processes which lead to also the rise and fall of empire. For example, spread of Roman Empire, earlier Greek. All these empire building processes, these have given rise to various types of epidemics and pandemics. This we must remember, for which trade and trade routes, these were the carriers, wars were the carriers, the processes of colonization were the carriers, the transport links, the tourism, and the globalization process itself. Now this brings us an awareness about how do we think about, how do we adopt the spatial approach, spatiality, and understand the spatiality of COVID.
Ma'am, can
Yeah.
we take a 5 minutes of a break?
Yeah.
Since you take a break, Director UGC HRDC, Professor Shanti ma'am is with us. So she
Okay.
will have an interaction with the participant for 5 minutes.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Welcome, Dr. Gandhi.
Nice to interact with you, Dr. Shanti.
I know. Thank you for accepting our invitation and taking a session for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Shanti, I made it is a challenging thing that I ventured into COVID.
Yes. I'll give it back to you quickly, 2 minutes.
Sure.
I will just talk to the participants.
Yeah,
okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm joining. I'm also taking.
Yes.
2 minutes
So,
break.
participants, many of you are not putting your videos on. Actually, it is mandatory, as I told you, that all of you have to put your videos on. So, those who have not put their videos on will be marked absent, actually, according to our rules. So, I've checked. Many of you are not putting your videos on. Okay, don't give me any reason that, we don't have good bandwidth, good connectivity. So, we have been conducting so many courses. Okay, and I see in this course, many of you have put your videos off. That is not acceptable. You'll be marked absent. You have to do a backlog then. If next time I see you, that you put your video off.
But ma'am, we are right here. It's sometimes it's really straining in the eye, and we are focusing on the PPT.
No, that is not acceptable.
The video not being on does not mean that we are not here.
No, I am not able to see you, and many of the participants, I am not able to see many of them. Only 5, 6 have put their videos on. Okay. And based on the instructions only, we have given strict instructions also on the first day. And if it's acceptable, only you attend the course. Otherwise, we don't have to attend the course. But then we can't mark you present when you are putting the videos off. Okay.
Well, now here I bring you a understanding that why many a times it has been told since last 1 or 2 years, these 2 years, that there is a comparison. One can have a similarity in the experiences of Spanish flu and COVID-19. Now, these are some obvious, you can say, similarities, that both are pandemic. Then the flu originated in United States, COVID in China. Now, the agent of spade here was soldiers, while here these were the travelers, tourists, business class professionals, etc. And main thing is this, that what is the difference is that no doubt capital and its structuration was there, and because of which, again, the geopolitics, this was there, because of which the First World War occurred. No doubt about that. And today we are having more economic wars rather than the actual wars. So the capitalist expansion and integration of the economies, distant economies, larger or smaller, into the folds of multinational corporations, into the folds of the trade regions, like the trade that is, as the WTO got structured, we find that all these trade blocks which are there, and therefore a huge region like, say, ASEAN, or like the BRIC countries, or earlier the EU, then the NAFTA and the LAFTA, all this structuration, this all has an impact on providing the networks, providing the routes and the highways through which the epidemics, the pandemics like COVID-19 can flow across and can have the rampant impact on them. But both are, similarity is there that both are equally lethal in their impact. Then I have several these types of diagrams and then the tables, but one can appreciate here by now. Some of us, we are probably ventured into the statistics of COVID and the world. And here you are having that about 26.2 crores of cases were recorded. This is all the data of late, you can say November, this 22nd or 23rd, while I was preparing the presentation, I tried to obtain and prepare the tables for you. Similarly, in case of India, it is 3.46 crore which were affected, whereas deaths were 52 lakhs in the world, whereas in case of India, it is around 5 point something more now lakhs. Recovery in case of world was this 23.54. So recovery was there, no doubt about this. And this is the difference. I think more number of deaths in case of Spanish flu because there was no vaccine. There were no medicines available. Only the aspirin was being given. Or some such medicines were given. But today you are having laboratories. Today you have your armors which can think of, combating with COVID. That was not there. And for which reason we find that there is a recovery here. And in case of India also, 3.46 crore. Out of that, 3.4 crores have recorded, which means the deaths are relatively fewer in terms of some lakhs of people have died, 5 lakhs and so. Now, we have the total test. Now, we don't have, I could not get the data for total test. Maybe it will be there per million population. Now, percentage of population, this also, there is a regional divergence, which is very evident. Now, this is the bi-weekly confirmed COVID-19 cases per 1 million population. And you can see the paradox I was talking about, that the developed world, this developed world is affected. The West European countries, United States of America, Russia, China has contained itself. So now China's situation is not that. And of course, the data for China is not in that way available. But you can see the India is comparable to Latin American countries. But in case of Chile, it is relatively much higher incidence, the incidence of the cases. But Africa, now today we know that Omicron has come from South Africa. South Africa could identify Omicron and its impact. And South Africa is also, it is getting punished. That is what the doctors in South African countries are telling, that you are punishing us by, closing the borders. But Africa is having a low impact as such. Now, all these are questions. These cannot be taken in terms of just the facts like that, because whether the tests are fewer, whether the medical facilities are not available, the tracing is not being done, all these things are there. But still, the most important thing is that those parts of the world which are not integrated into the capitalist, you can say, structures of the global economy, these are relatively less affected. This is my contention of my presentation. Here you can find that the confirmed cases exceeded even 1 lakh of population in 7 countries, which included USA, Spain, Italy, UK, Germany, France, and Turkey. So many of these are the developed parts of the world. And the fatality rates also in these countries were very high. So now I come to the table where you have top 10 countries recording COVID. This is actually an interesting table, and it will take a lot of time if we go on talking about these tables. I don't want to make you bore with the values themselves, but I just want to explain to you what is the paradoxical situation. You look at United States of America is standing, it is the top country which is in this table, followed by India, no doubt about that, in terms of, because the size of population, Indian population is huge. just like China. But in terms of percentage to total population, United States almost 15%, 14.7% of its population is affected. Whereas in case of India, it is just 2.5%. Now, one can say that, well, where is the testing? All testing has not been done. Brazil is 10. UK is 14.7, Russia is 13.7, Turkey is 7.2. So you look at these values and you can understand my point, what I'm trying to say. Similarly, if you talk in terms of deaths, again, a proportionate understanding about the death values, this is indicating that USA 15.4% of the deaths of total number of deaths.